the Ampere.
Hey guys, starting from where we left in the last part, we talked about incorporating the wall fighting feature from Storm 1 again. However, this time it should be with a few minor details. When we look on how the wall fighting feature actually works in Storm 1, you quickly realize that the transitions between the scenes are rough. The wall fighting only begins if someone happens to be launched by any given attack into the right direction that hits the wall. From there, a short cutscene happens and both players are positioned very close to each other. Instead of having this default camera setting for this wall fighting feature, SPYN should focus on having the camera following you smoothly without cutting into cutscenes. And this is where the camera, as I would like to suggest, should only follow your own character, and vice versa, with the opponent only having his own character in focus. This is to be defined more specifically later on in this suggestion series. This is also to prevent that the wall fighting ends so quickly, because as soon as one of the players get knocked down once, it will send you directly to the ground again as in Storm 1. So this camera setting is to make sure that the wall fighting feature becomes a more integrated part of the game, thus becoming more useful and enjoyable, by having you being able to still be on the wall despite if the other player gets knocked down and whatnot. So in general, this is about prolonging the wall fighting and making it possible to change between fighting on the ground and fighting on the walls or roof as much as you want to. Of course, this is not in for the favor of someone being able to abuse that to escape, and I've got a decent system to solve any kind of abusive use of this wall fighting feature. Now, I want to suggest as well that they should keep the control settings for how you can move on the walls. I don't want to get into too specific details about this, but I will mention that when you run on the walls, it's a bit different than just running on the ground. When you're running on the walls in Storm 1, the movement analog, L3 in this case, responds in a different way. It's because that the analog is coded accordingly to the two-dimensional plane that you are running on, which is the wall. It's not according to the other player as it normally is. Pointing to the sides will make you run to left and right along the wall. Pointing up makes you run up on the wall, and pointing down will make you run towards the ground. If SPYN wanted to, they could actually work on having the somewhat same conditions for those movement settings on ground as on walls, where the analog is also acting accordingly to where the opponent is. Anyway, let's move on to the next small point that's got something to say as well when we talk about new and improved maps, which is the environmental effects. In one of the previous videos I mentioned destructible environments, with elements getting destroyed depending on what you do, but there's more to it. Depending on how the maps are, with having different elements like water, ground, air and so on, I want to suggest having those elements affecting the techniques you have. A quick example would yet again be showing the Kakashi boss battle, where Kakashi performs his lightning attack on the water surface, which then reaches out throughout the field. So by hitting the water, Kakashi expands his reach of the technique, and I want to suggest that we can have something like that in the regular versus mode as well. So the environmental effects should have bigger effects with more damage and longer reaches when you do them in specific places and so on. However, it should only be minor things so it doesn't become insanely overpowered and exploitable. Like increasing damage with 10 to 20%, so it's only small amounts that changes it. It's the same with the reach, and thereby the accuracy rate could be increased by 10 to 20%, so you have a bit better odds of actually hitting with your jutsu. Now, there are many examples of what things it could be like, so instead I want to mention quick examples besides the one you saw just earlier, with lightning techniques being performed on water. Water techniques getting enhanced when being performed on water, fire getting enhanced when you perform on burnt place, wind attacks getting stronger when it's windy, and rock techniques being a bit stronger when performed on the ground. So it's the same kind of principles. The case is very simple and very easy to understand, and at the same time it doesn't have to be overwhelming effects that applies to the techniques when you perform them in these given scenarios. It's actually just a little feature that can gain a lot of meaning throughout the game when incorporated. Remember, a game's total outcome also depends on the small details combined in the gameplay. If you enjoyed this video, it would help me out a lot if you comment, like, favorite and subscribe. This has been SPYN, and as always, thanks for watching.